You're on the Bible Forum so far. Do you ever think one day that the Bible Forum would get banned from YouTube? I do. They've already knocked us off once for a week for something somebody thought I said, and I didn't have any recourse. Couldn't stop them. And when I went and checked, I didn't say that. I downloaded the video, put it on my computer, because I can't see it anymore. It's been banned. It's been gone. But one day, people are going to either try or ban the Bible. Efforts to ban the Bible have universally failed. Even in the militarily totalitarian countries like China. But spiritually corrupt human beings continue to try. And the question becomes why? What is so bad about the Bible that you, as a government, you can't have it in your country? Well, there isn't anything bad in the Bible. What's bad is their government. And the Bible, which is good, condemns them and their lifestyle without ever naming them. And that's the interesting part. What Shakespeare said, methinks you protest too loudly. If somebody says something and you're offended by it, it must apply to you. The somebody who said something didn't know that until you reacted. That's the kind of thing that's happening in China and will happen around the world. It usually starts with a liberal approach to the Word of God, changing the definitions, changing the word. Do you know why we have 600 versions of the Bible in print today? You only need one. Now, I realize you got to do it for different languages, but English versions, there's several hundred English versions. You only need one, unless you're trying to change something, alter something. Well, we're just trying to make it easier to understand. Okay, but in the very best of those sorts of translations, and I've used them, they still struggle to come up with the precision that's locked in to the old language, Shakespearean language. You change the definitions, you change the wording, the way it's structured. You create new versions of the Bible that are only a little different in ways most people wouldn't notice. You introduce moral values to counter the Word of God in your politics. We're told that religious/Christian liberalism began in Europe. Germany is what we're being told. Now keep in mind there's really no such thing as Christian liberalism. They took Christianity and they watered it down. And when you water Christianity down, it becomes something else. Once a church or a church group move away from the cardinal doctrines and practices, that church or church group ceases to be Christian in the biblical sense. Now, churches can hold various positions on non-critical philosophies, terminology, organizational structures, and so forth. But when they start altering core doctrines, doctrines like soteriology, the doctrine of salvation, or bibliology, the doctrine of the Bible, usually having to do with divine inspiration, authority, reliability, and so forth. Or maybe they tackle ecclesiology, the doctrine of the church. In doing so, they cease being biblically sound. They have to change something, and they don't change it to make it better, they change it to make it worse. There's no way to make it better. And to the extent of what constitutes being Christian, along with what constitutes salvation in the church, they cease being a truly Christian church. In the last 200 or so years, they've gotten creative with core issues, and they've drifted away from the divinely spiritual. Of course, this is what most churches are today, and the very few people today know it or care. And the major European churches are way ahead of us. They abandoned the standards in the Word of God years before we did, decades. A current case in point is the nation of Finland. The leader of a confessional Lutheran denomination in Finland was questioned by the police on February the 12th about his responsibility in the distribution of a 24-page booklet, a booklet that was published in 2004 entitled Male and Female, He Created Them. The dean of the Evangelical Lutheran Mission Diocese of Finland and head of that group of churches publishing house responded to police questions for 5 hours as a part of a preliminary investigation of a case that also involves the author of the booklet. The author is a member of Parliament. What's the big deal? Well, the dean maintains that if one is not allowed to teach this publicly, the message of sin and grace will be left without a foundation, and freedom of religion will decline. Do you agree? So, why is this important? As with everywhere, it seems the issue is the effort to erase the God-given distinctions between male and female. This is presented to us as personal choice, when in reality, it's an attack against God. You know, the God, the one who created human beings, male and female, created He them. So how does all this affect the gospel? Well, because God set things up with gender distinctions in mind. In fact, the gender distinctions were front and center in the issue of sin, as well as salvation. And Adam was charged with spiritual headship responsibilities where Eve was concerned. And therein lies the rub. We can't have that. We can't have one gender with more authority, more responsibility than the other gender. Why not? Well, it's not fair. It's not decent. It doesn't matter. No. We can't have that because that arrangement is God's arrangement. And as long as cultures are arranged that way, they are giving lip service to God, and we can't have that. Now, the whole idea of bending genders, of being whatever you want to be, is foolish at the outset. Just looking at it. Men can never be women, women can never be men. And women can act like men and dress like men and be rough and tough like men, but they're still women. They still got the DNA. And men can act as feminine as you want and wear dresses and makeup and, and you couldn't tell them apart, but the DNA is still there. They're still male. Male and female created He them for a reason, for a purpose, more than just reproduction. There is a organizational structure built into this relationship that's important, that we are not all out here in an equality system, but there are some who have authority over others. We don't like that. Why don't we like that? It's healthy. It makes for a strong relationship. It provides security and safety. It also provides procreation. Why do we dislike it so much? We dislike it because the enemy of our soul is at work to undermine anything that has to do with God, and this is one of them. And people today are playing along with this because it feeds their own pride, their own feelings about what life is and how it's supposed to work. That governments and churches and schools and other authority structures are going along with it simply means that we're living in the last days, that we are living at a time that could end any minute. This whole thing could be over. And when it's over, then comes the judgment. And there's not going to be anybody there at the judgment seat who's a man saying I'm a woman, or a woman saying I'm a man. Not going to happen. The one true God of heaven that made them is going to be there, and he knows the difference. Everything's got a day coming, doesn't it? What are you going to do?